Hey everyone, I hope you're having a great day today. So this is the compiled version of my E46 build. If you want to check out any of these segments in more detail, you can check out my channel. I've posted each episode or each little build series as their own standalone episode, and you can kind of go through in more detail with that. But let's go ahead and hop right into this. So the first thing I had to do was replace this upper intake boot. Eventually, I needed to replace the lower one as well as the MAF, which you'll see later. But at first, I only thought I needed to do this. I did put that pretty dirty air filter back in. That was also replaced at a later time. Tyler gave me a good little bit of flack for that, which rightfully so, but we went ahead and rectified it later. I hopped in the car to see if the intake codes were clearing, and they weren't necessarily, so that's where the later part comes. But after that, I hopped into the trunk. I was removing a lot of this radio and navigation stuff. I just went ahead and left the cables all secured in their place. As you'll see later, I didn't really delete any of the wiring out of this vehicle. I was going to accomplish that at some point, but never really got to it before I let the vehicle go. You'll see there's a pretty nice nest of stuff, but a neat little shot there of the trunk and kind of explaining what I had done. I was also explaining how I was looking for an electrical gremlin with my electric fan for the radiator, but that was unsolvable until I replaced the entire unit. So after I started working on the vehicle, I realized, I should probably put a pretty comprehensive list together for the vehicle, the build plan of what we wanted to do. So I spent some time with Tyler down at the shop and we went over the car in detail and I put together this list. So this is a pretty all-encompassing list. It's pretty much everything that we found that we would want to do to the vehicle. And then I eventually broke it down into a more refined and more priority type of list. So that's what I focused on with the vehicle at the beginning throughout this kind of process. And after that, I kind of explained how I was going to get into drifting, where I was going to drift, what I was going to start with, and how I practiced. So if you're not familiar, Assetto Corsa is a great way to get some seat time in without having to actually go out with your vehicle to a track or to somewhere to drift. And it's really useful. A lot of people use it, and a lot of people that have only drifted on sim, when they hop into a vehicle to actually drift for the first time, it transfers pretty well, and it did for me. So I was really glad I got to do this practice. So back to working on the car, the first thing I did was replace that pesky dirty air filter. After that, I pulled out the fan, and then I started to drain the radiator. Made a mess everywhere and jacked up the car to get a better access to the underparts. Make sure you always use jack stands whenever you're working under a car like this. After that, I went ahead and pulled the old crusty radiator, started unboxing the new one, nice and shiny. Also, what's not shown here is I went ahead and replaced the water pump and thermostat. Kind of hard to get a good angle down in there for that. Went ahead and started putting everything back together, all the hoses, the expansion tank, etc. Dropped fan back in, and after that, went ahead and pressure checked it just to make sure all was good. Don't forget, always clean up your mess, work in a clean area, and yeah. So now what I'm working on is removing the window tinting in the vehicle. I've got a couple different supplies here. I had 3D printed a little handle for this razor. And so I'm spraying the window with this glass cleaner, cleaning up the little bit of runoff on the door card, and I'm going to cover it with this black trash bag. Now it's pretty cloudy out in this scene right now, but the idea is to heat up the window tint and make it easier to remove. So I do that everywhere. I come back inside because the handle that I printed is not right, so I'm gonna glue it on. And you saw a nice little clip of Winston there. He's a good support for this project. Start peeling it back with a little bit of razor. The spray and the heat helped remove it, and go ahead and do that everywhere. So now I just clean up and on to the next thing. So now you see here, I got my buddy Akash. We are working on installing some coilovers. It's a DGR set. Really happy with them. They turned out pretty great. Lots of good success. I'm really excited. As you see here, I'm opening the package. Can't open it quick enough. I'm trying to rip it open. Should have used a knife, but we made it through anyway. So let's go ahead and get these in. All right, so we got the first one on the rear. Akash is helping out with a shoe test, and now we're lowering the car. Car looks pretty great overall. Really happy with how it turned out. Not too low, good bit of stance, but not too much. Now we're working on the oil pan gasket, getting that cleaned up. And then we've pulled the diff. We're going to get this welded up. Tyler helped me out welding it. It was his first time welding. Not too bad if I do say so myself. Getting it turned, making sure there's no slag blocking the gears, and looking pretty good. Now we're taking a look at the motor mounts. These are pretty beat up. I've got some solid ones coming in. After the fact, not the biggest fan, but they worked pretty well. Full race car. Now we're looking at the rear trailing arm bushings. These were a bit to get out, and now some tie rod updates. These are some top hats for the coilovers to help reinforce the shell, and then get the diff back in. Gotta get it tested. Now we're back outside. We're gonna get this vehicle cleaned up a little bit, get the silver out of here, and we're gonna go with white. I've got some primer that I'm laying on. Look at my amazing technique. No sarcasm there whatsoever. But the white did turn out pretty well. Not bad for a parking lot spray paint job. Now we're working on wheels. Maybe I regretted this decision as well. The silver was pretty nice, but get some primer on there, get some black on there, and nice, a little murdered out look. We get the rest of the car taped up, and we're able to get the rest of the car painted white. I really liked how it turned out. This was a good job, all things considered, and doing some touch up on the black trim, and we're all wrapped up, and it's looking pretty good. Pretty good from about 10 feet. So now that I had the car all looking good, I had to go give it a test shot. This was my first day on track. Not too bad. Sim practice really helped out. So after the first drift event, we're back in the garage. We are stripping the interior, cleaning up all of this trash, and getting rid of anything that's not necessary. We did leave this bundle of wires and a bunch of accessory wires in the vehicle. Did not want to try to cut those out, but at the end of the day, we were able to remove about 110 pounds. This is me starting up the vehicle to make sure everything that I had put back together worked, and we're back on track. My car is looking like a Christmas tree, but that's okay. Let's go race car stuff. So here I am back on track, having a good time. It's a lot of fun. Really support drifting. It's a great opportunity to get out and have some good seat time. Support your local tracks, support your local organizations. I didn't keep the E46 long, but check out the next video to see what I got next.